Huh, will you look at that? It's my favorite time of the year, Heroes Month. How's it going, guys? Plastic Disasta here. Now, for the past 2 years in July, if you guys have been subscribed for a while, you know that every July I always do Heroes Month. I've already covered the alternate universe stuff, so for this year, I think Universal Century, which is the main Gundam timeline, deserves a bit of love. Today, we're going to take a look at the high-grade Universal Century Double Zeta Gundam from the anime series Mobile Suit Double Zeta Gundam, which is not everyone's cup of tea. Any of you Double Zeta fans out there, say what's up down in the comments down below. Let's take a look at the box art. We see a nice illustration of the Double Zeta, and in the background you can see it's split up into 3 different parts and it's flying off in space in the battlefield. So take a look at this side of the box. Here we see the Double Zeta firing its cannons, and this is the gimmick I was telling you about, that it can split into 3 different parts, or you can combine it all into one big ship. And right over here it just shows off the weapons and the details of its big old thrusters. And moving on to this side of the box, we have the front and rear shot of the kit, and right over here we have another nice illustration of the Double Zeta and the Zeta Gundam alongside with it. And after cracking open the box, we have 5 bags of runners and a manual. So taking a look at the cover of the manual, we see the kit all put together nice and painted. And what's so interesting about this one, since this is a chunky kit, which means it comes with a lot of parts, that it's not like one of those folded out manuals. This one is like a little booklet. Parts list check. We're going to be using all of them except we're going to have a few leftover polycaps. Moving on to this part of the manual, just tells us the information of the Double Zeta Gundam. Now, if you're interested, if you want to read it up about it, I know it's in Japanese, but you can always read it on the wiki. Moving on to this side of the manual, we have a familiar render of the Double Zeta, and moving on down, just shows off an advertisement of the other Gundam model kits and the images from the anime. Now, these are older model kits, and right now we do have a new Zeta Gundam Mark II and the Hguc, which is a revived version. Bandai, please make a new improved Zaku 3, please. And moving to the back, we see the Double Zeta in the action pose, rear shot, showing off the details. And right down here is a color guide if you're planning on painting it. Starting off with runner A is going to be a multi-colored runner. We got a big chunk of red right here, some black, yellow, and right down here almost looks like a bluish gray. On camera, I know it looks just like regular gray, but if you have it in your hands, I promise you it looks different. Next up, we have runner B, and it's gonna be the blue parts, and what's funny is that blue starts with the letter B. Runner C, we are gonna have the red parts. Runner D is going to be the white parts. 2 runner E's, more white parts. Runner F, we have some ABS gray parts. Runner G, we have more of that bluish gray color I told you about in runner A. Of course, we're going to end it with the big polycap runner, beam saber effect parts, and a sticker sheet. But that's going to be it for the unboxing. Now, I forgot to say that this kit did came out in 2010, so let's see if this kit ages well after 13 years. So I'm going to put it together right now, and I'll see you guys after the build. Here is this Double Zeta all put together. Now, 2 things I want to mention. First off, the color separation. Now, back then, it's actually pretty impressive despite its age. And another thing is, I did say its age, which means, yeah, it does really show. You can take it either it's a good thing or a bad thing. Even though there's not a lot of panel line details, I mean, you can always scribe it, but due to the wacky design, it kind of makes up for it. And what I mean by wacky, I mean wacky in a good way. So let's get to the stickers quickly. So starting off with this, of course, that goes into the eyes. You see these black stickers, they would all go into a yellow vent. Now, normally I would talk about which parts it goes to, but since I already said it goes to every yellow vent, just make sure just to match the shape and pay attention which side it goes to. These 2 red metallic stickers, they go onto the tip of the knees. Moving onto the gun, the green metallic stickers would go right here, and this sticker right here, just flip this gun under, it goes right over here on this tip. Finally, this little sticker right here goes onto this black part of the core fighter. Moving on to seam lines, most of the time it's pretty well hidden, so I'll give it that, but there are a few seam lines you want to take care of. I had to pop the leg out just to show you that there is a seam line on the back of the thigh, but in the front you could get away with it as a detail. And another one you want to take care of would be on the sides of the backpack, which would be right here. Overall, the out-of-box presentation is actually not bad. It is better than some HGs. So something tells me I don't have to put a lot of effort in, so I'm gonna work on this kit right now. I'll see you guys right after. Hey guys, Editing Plastic Disasta here. Forgot to tell you that you do have another seam line right over here, like on the side of the shoulder. And here is a double Zeta after all that detailed work. Now for this one, I decided to skip on the water slide decals because I want to show what you can do with just minimal effort, and it turned out pretty good. Now I already said that the out-of-box presentation does look good, but when you detail this kit, it enhances it a lot more. Moving on with accessories, starting off with hand options, you get one closed fist on the left side and one open palm hand or beam saber holding hand because you got a little tab on it which connects to the beam saber on it. And you get a trigger figure hand which I already attached it to the beam rifle. And speaking of the beam rifle, of course, here it is. This can move up and down, rotate, the handle can move forward. I thought it was backwards, but I guess I was wrong. And this camera can move back. Now all of this is just for the transformation, just a heads up. And speaking of the transformation, you get the core fighter. Now remember how I told you this double Zeta can split up into like 3 different sets, because this is going to attach to the waist. We also have more parts for parts forming, like extra thrusters and some pieces that can hold the G-Fortress together. And of course you have 2 beam saber effect parts, and look how big this is. If we're talking about head height, yeah, it's a pretty tall beam saber. Moving on to articulation, the head is on a ball joint and it can rock forward and backwards. As for the shoulder, it can rotate, but due to the design, it's going to hinder the backpack if you're going to rotate it, and it can move forward and backward just a little bit, but just pull it out and there you go, you got a swinging mechanism. The shoulder can move up and down. This flap can rotate, it can move down and up, that's for a transformation. You get a bicep rotation, the arms can move out this far. Well, if you move it back, because if it's like this way, like the flaps will just hinder each other. You get a 90-degree elbow bend and a ball joint on the wrist. And the flaps can move up and down and rotate, but that is for a transformation. Now, a few seconds ago, I did say there is a rotation right over here. What I forgot to mention is that there is a rotation right here. So it's going to be a little tricky when you handle the arms. Moving on to the torso, well, all you gotta get is a ball joint on the waist. Front skirt can move out. Now, the side skirt, well, actually, it's more like connected to the thigh, and it can move out this far, and there is no back skirt. The leg is on a ball joint, but due to design, it's gonna hinder everywhere. And you also get a thigh rotation, which is nice, I guess. I forgot to mention this flap can rotate, and this can rotate as well because of the transformation. The leg can bend 90 degrees. This part can move in and out. This part can move up and down ever so slightly. Okay, so moving on to the foot. Now, if you look very closely, you can see that it is on a ball joint, and it can rock forward and backwards. And as for the pivot, it's a pretty nice pivot. And finally, moving on to the backpack, this flap can move out because of the transformation, and you can also pull this down, which reveals missiles or micro missiles, and the beam saber can spring forward and backwards. Overall, the articulation on this kit is meh. Yeah, sadly, you're not going to pull off any dynamic poses with this kit. Alright, so now I'm going to transform this kit off camera, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Here's what it looks like when I transform. Now, believe me when I say this, if I ever film a transformation, we would be here all day because there is a lot of sets that I have to go through. Now, I did say that the Double Zeta has a pretty wacky design, and I can say that it does carry over to the transformation as well. And as for leftover parts, this is what you're left with, so I recommend you use a Ziploc bag or something, and you're gonna be using this to combine these two. Also, just to clear up, I thought it's gonna be like 3 separate things, but it turns out it's just 2 separate things. I haven't seen the anime in a while, so correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe jog my memory down in the comments below. And here's what it looks like when it's combined. All you gotta do is just take off the Neo Core Fighter and just stick the big gray piece under it just to hold it together. In the end, would you really consider this a parts forming nightmare? Not really. Like I said, it is a lot of steps, but it can be pretty irritating at times. Alright, so I'm going to turn it back to its MS mode for the size comparisons. For size comparisons, here it is right next to the standard size RX 782, and as you can tell, the double Zeta is a pretty big guy. Also throw in the Zeta Gundam, and these two are the same height. Next up, here it is right next to his arch nemesis, the Cuboid. Now I know the double Zeta looks great with the Zeta Gundam. Now tell me that does not look great with the Cuboid. Don't worry, I will get to the Cuboid Mark II someday. And finally, here it is right next to Godzilla and Optimus Prime. So that's gonna be it for the size comparisons. Let's move on to my final thoughts. So moving on to my final thoughts. Overall, the kit is a mixed bag. For the positives, the out-of-box build, yeah, it is pretty good and it is pretty solid, and doing some work on it is just minimal effort. However, the downside of it, the articulation is not as good. I mean, maybe due to the engineering, it's kind of understandable. But hey, at least it could still pull off the iconic double Zeta pose like you saw on the thumbnail. So I don't recommend transforming this kit too much, because after I transform it back to the MS mode, the ball joint on the wrist on the right side is starting to loosen up a bit. It's an easy fix, so no big deal. It's just a heads up. Now the question is, do I recommend this kit? Well, if you're okay with what you saw, and if you're a double Zeta fan, I say go for it. And if you don't like what you saw, well, there are better kits out there. Alright, so that's gonna wrap up the review. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new here, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And if you have any questions, concerned, comment down below, leave a like. I'll see you guys in the next video. All I need is to build the Hguc, and the Gundam team is complete.